guys, welcome back to the Flower Files. For those of you who watch us every week, you know that I'm in a slightly different location. This is my first off-site, on-site, however, what am I supposed to call it? Is it off-site?
Off-site for you.
On-site for me.
Yeah.
Episode, so needless to say, I'm a little nervous, but super excited. I am sitting here with my good friend Maddie, and I am so excited that she was the first person. I was like, can we do this together? And she said yes. So Maddie, my friend, my hero, my savior, sometimes that person that I can talk to about business things in life,
absolutely.
And just normal things. But will you tell everybody who you are?
Absolutely. Hi, so I'm Dr. Maddie Schofield. I own Chestertown Animal Hospital, and I'm here today with my good friend Liza, and she has some lovely pets that I get to take care of. So we're here to talk about all things regarding plants and springtime and how to keep your pets at home safe. I do have some general information that I'm willing to share, but mostly I treat dogs and cats, so I will speak to those species, and then we can definitely talk about, all the things that are coming with spring and gardening and all those beautiful arrangements that she sends to your house, how to keep your animals safe.
Perfect. And I think it's fair to say that cats may get into arrangements that are delivered in the house more than dogs, but yes. I think dogs get into the garden more than cats.
I think that that's a safe assumption. I don't know that I've really seen any toxic garden exposures on cats other than them just kind of getting into
something.
Yeah, overexposure in just general sense.
Yeah.
But you're very right with that statement. And indoor, I just was at my parents' house who had received a beautiful arrangement from you.
Yeah.
And their cat was pawing up. They have to put the arrangement so high to try to keep her away from everything.
There are some people who say that it's like a challenge for the cat. It's like, you put it that high? Let me figure that out. I'll get to it.
Yeah, and they just love to explore things with their mouth and
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. Last night I was sitting. I was actually looking things up and taking notes, and I heard this commotion outside. And Huck is my son's blue heeler. I have 2 Boston Terriers, so all of a sudden we heard cats outside. So I have Bouquet and Chiquita, and they're fine. Sometimes they holler, but I was like, that's a weird sound. And all of a sudden there's this dark gray other cat outside, and Bouquet was like, who are you and what do you want? And they were like, and of course, and of course the dogs are like freaking out, like, let me out. So I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I was like, so perfect for sitting and getting ready to chat with you.
Mm-hmm, exactly. No, it's definitely a time for everybody to be out and exploring now that the weather's better, and lots of different territory battles of sorts, which is probably what you were experiencing.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So I'd love to look at this from 2 perspectives. I'd love to talk about flowers that are often brought into the home.
Okay.
But I would also like to talk about plants and flowers that people commonly have in their gardens.
Right.
So where do you want to start?
We can start outside if you'd like and talk about the garden. I think that's a good place to start.
Many people have, when it comes to gardens, they have both. They tend to have fruits and vegetables, and then they tend to plant flowers as well. Is there something that you see that is common when it comes to dogs and cats outside and garden things? What are things that you see that they get into that people may not necessarily think of?
And I think some of the most common things are that you just forget a lot of the bushes around your house have different types of chemicals or toxins associated with them, honestly. And so if you have one of those Labradors or dogs that's out in the yard with you and they like to chew on a stick, and you're trimming some rhododendrons or some yews, both of those are toxic. And so I do think it's good, from just a standpoint of walk around your property, familiarize yourself with what's in your yard, what kind of shrubs especially, and then flower wise, a lot of flowers that we like that are ornamental and pretty are pretty safe. You've got all of your little daisies and marigolds and your zinnias and peas and those sorts of things are pretty safe for the most part. And, we can eat pansies, etc. So, but if you start to get into more of like irises and especially, lilies, we do have outdoor lilies and indoor lilies, so we'll circle to them inside. But outside also, if you have a dog that is like going through big stands of standing lilies and the pollen's knocking on them, and then they're going inside and rolling in a dog bed, and then the cat's rolling. I've just seen pollen kind of, like high, but again, like think of like flower beds of, like, so those big cutting flower beds, if you have a lot of extensive lilies and animals, be safe with that. But usually it's just random chewing on things.
Okay.
And then again, like green tomatoes, I know seem delicious once fried, but are actually toxic in their raw state. And lots of dogs like to go play with those as if they're a ball. So just be a little bit, alert. And
we grew last year for the first time cucamelons.
Okay.
They are little tiny. They only get about this big, and they're also known as they're cucamelons. They're mouse melon. Like they're known as a couple different things.
Huh.
I had to fight with my dogs to keep them off of it, because if I wasn't paying attention, Chip was just, shocker.
Yeah.
But he was just downing them. I mean, you could literally, I swear you could hear them like,
in his tummy, I
was like, what are you doing?
So, they do love to forage, and they are animals as much as we want to like personify them and make them a part of the family. They're not people, and so they are out, eating the mulberry bush and
adventuring.
My dogs really had a problem with my fig tree. We had to like trim it this year, so hopefully it goes up and like can't go laterally, because they just are eating all of them. Blueberries.
That was another thing.
Yeah.
I was like, could you at least wait until they're blue?
So just being careful about overindulgence, I would say, of anything that's safe. I mean, that's pretty common for us as well. But
when it comes to flowers, would you say kind of rule of thumb would be if it's safe for us to consume, it's generally okay if they nibble some of it?
And then there's two really great resources regarding the pet toxicology groups, the animal pet control or animal pet poison hotline. We'll put
I've actually called that.
Yeah,
and there's a human.
Yeah,
it's not a recording,
no.
And it doesn't take long to get a hold of somebody, which was so nice.
It is really important, and especially depending on what they've gotten into, for us to kind of know what the lethal dose is, especially when we're talking about chemicals and medication. But that's a whole. But they are veterinary toxicologists, so they have access to data that we as general practitioners never have. So they are a very important piece to helping us solve. If you had some fertilizer or any type of, bait for those gophers, if you're doing anything like that, just be really careful about what you have.
Anything like that?
Yeah, be careful about what kind of chemicals are in some of those. It can actually, be a little irritating or actually toxic depending on what it is.
So what do we look for? So if I'm out in the garden and I'm like, hey, I'll take the dog with me, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I have to water this, and I turn around and they're into something, how do I, of course, obviously I call you. Hopefully it's not at a crazy hour. But what do I look for? What are things? When do I worry? What do I do?
So, I mean, I do think in general, just kind of the first question I like to ask people is like, if 10 is normal for your animal, like where would you rank them now? Like where would you put them on an energy scale? And so that helps me kind of like, if you tell me he's a 4 or 3, he's like flat out in the yard, obviously that's a real emergency. And again, it's not common. I mean, I really don't find that dogs want to chew rhododendron branches or eat you in good quantities. But those things are like more of the severe type toxins that we can see. And I'll be fortunate to say I've never seen a toxin of those varieties, but again, I just don't. I think dogs are also somewhat innately smart, and sometimes just don't. I mean, it depends, right? But again, so any vomiting and diarrhea, if they can't hold down water, that's always an emergency because they're becoming pretty significantly dehydrated. And then, if looking at their eyes, if, you're in the sunlight and they're huge and dilated, well, that's not normal, Okay. So just kind of like the status of your animal, looking at their gum color, it should be a nice bubble gum pink, if it's really white looking or really red, that can indicate that we're in some type of shock or dehydration or anything.
Bubblegum color.
Yeah, that's and the pigmented gums are kind of an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, some dogs even have a black tongue, but you can usually find some type of mucosal gum tissue, or you know, the inside of the eye, or you know, areas like that should be pink, and try to get an assessment if they are having some changes. Breathing, like if they're really having difficulty calming down and they're breathing a lot harder than normal, that would be definitely an indication that maybe we need to get them checked out. So.
I will say from personal experience in a whoops, years ago with our previous Boston Terriers, we had, and okay, so I'm that outside person. I'm always trying to do the right thing and garden and all of that kind of stuff. And we had a compost container in the backyard. It was black plastic, and it had holes on the side that were drilled in for drainage for the liquid and the lid. And we had filled it, and I didn't want anything into it, so I made sure it was, you know, in the backyard. Didn't even give a thought to the liquid coming out being like a liquor. And the one dog, his name was Ernie, he would love to go out and just lick the side of it. And I was like, that's weird. But the kids were little, and he's running around in the backyard, and we were in the pool, and then one day he looked drunk, and he was drunk from the compost.
That is funny. That's funny. I don't know that I've ever had him get drunk. They definitely get sick, but yeah, that's so funny.
Oh, he just was like
eating rotten fruit. Yeah.
Like, you have to be kidding me.
So funny. So funny.
So watch your compost bin.
Yes,
just saying.
No, totally. Compost is a hot item, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another random one that I think people forget about is mulch. So there is some of that like cocoa mulch. I think it's pretty rare, but again, be kind of aware of what type of mulch you're putting in. I've also seen that honestly really common with people and nut allergies. People get like walnut or something mulch and don't think that you're putting it in the playground, and then it's a huge problem.
And
so yeah, just if you have a bunch of grandkids or like, you know, are planning on throwing birthday parties, or like, you know, that just knowing what kind of wood mulch you put in can also be kind of important.
And I never thought of the cocoa mulch. I mean, it's, you know,
I mean, again, you're talking about dogs usually consuming a large amount, and I speak to dogs mostly because cats aren't stupid enough to be gorging commonly on things.
But hey, that probably smells good.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably like, well, I should eat a little of this.
They're usually eating animals is what I'm more worried about. Yeah. So, or fishing lures or something, you know, like again, more of that variety. They're not out eating green tomatoes for fun. So, but yeah.
You have met Chip. He's a mess. And you're right, they do act like it's a ball because, you know, they get to be about this size, and you run past and then one falls off, and they're like, where'd the tennis ball come from? This is great. And now all of the dogs want to try to, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
No, harvesting, they seem to, I've had one that would like get in and try to, you know, pre-harvest. I'm like, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. We're trying to actually grow tomatoes.
Yes.
You're not allowed in the process.
No. Okay, so why don't we flip to the inside? Let's talk about not just flowers, but I mean, there's houseplants too. There's lots. There's lots going on inside. If you can grow things inside.
Correct. I'm not a good one for that either.
I can grow outside.
I have a few things that we've had for a couple years.
Yeah. People will give me things, and I'm like, oh God, I have to give this away really quickly because no,
it's hard. It's definitely a skill that some people are really good at. We have some orchids, but
I can do an orchid. I can do those. I can put an ice cube on it once a week and be like, okay, you've been watered.
That's a good low maintenance indoor situation. But you know, flower arrangements are really beautiful, but the most common issue and toxic and lethal issue we deal with is lilies. And so especially with Easter approaching, if you have cats, I'd probably tell you not to bring lilies inside. It's just
so potted as well as cut, like it doesn't matter. Lilies,
like the Easter lilies, and then if we want to get into houseplants, like peace lilies, also different completely, obviously, but also very toxic. And so I would just think of lilies in general as a bad class for especially cats.
Calla lilies as well? I know I'm hitting
that's a good
you with,
question.
like,
I think like less. I think they're in like the medium range. Let me get back on that website though and check.
Okay.
But I do think, because what is calla lily? Spathiphyllum, I think it's peace lily.
Spathiphyllum is they're the green and and they're great.
But I can't
that
remember.
one I can't kill. It gets a little sad when it needs a drink, and I go, "Oh, I'm sorry." I give it a drink, and it comes back up.
But most houseplants, as a rule, are actually toxic in some way. A lot of them have oxalate crystals, and again, with them exploring and just nibbling on things, those release crystals and are very irritating to their mouth, and then they swallow it. It's like really irritating to their esophagus. So that's not when we actually give hydrogen peroxide to, which I know everybody loves to choke down their animals with hydrogen peroxide at home.
Why? What does that do?
It induces vomiting, but it does have risk of stomach ulceration, as you can imagine. I will agree. I will admit that I did my fair share of it in vet school at one point in time with a bird dog that really had an affinity for trash can items.
I thought it was charcoal.
So we induce vomiting, and then we give them charcoal to absorb toxins if we're worried that they've eaten something. But with certain houseplants, like, you are not to induce vomiting, because it's thought of like you're eating these shredding crystals and you swallow them one way and then you shred them back. So you actually do more damage. So you really want to coat. And again, there's pretty intense protocols for some of these, intoxic plant ingestions, especially with kidney damage is what we see. And once the kidneys are damaged, they don't regenerate. So, we've definitely seen a good number of cats get into lilies, be on IV fluids for a couple days. I don't know if you've ever tried to manage cats on IV fluids, but they're not really a fan. No. It's not the easiest experience for them or for us. And we're just, trying to get them through that process. Also, something, again, you don't do any flower arrangements with grapes, but that's the kind of similar thing that we deal with grapes and raisin ingestion. So I have seen dogs who people had some, grape vines outside, and the dog would just come along and eat the bottom rung that he could get to, and he had low-level kidney damage because he was ingesting grapes every summer. Wow. So, again, not something that you really would think of, or like, that's safe fruit for us. Yeah. But there's a toxin in there that they cannot process.
It's in the skin.
Yes,
now that I'm
they just found it in the last couple of years. But we don't have, like, to my knowledge, there's not an anecdote to, other than just kind of diuresing them. And so.
What about citrus?
Not to my knowledge, other than just like the acid exposure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't. We have that like UV dermatologic syndrome with citrus. I don't know if you watched The Pit, but that was actually on last week's episode.
I love that.
But I haven't seen an animal with that. But I'm sure
they'll do something.
Somewhere that's happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise most of the flowers within an arrangement are fairly safe. Okay. But again, it's great resources online if you want to just take a little peruse if you've just received something. I mean, roses, usually they're just like eat a few leaves and then vomit. It's just somewhat of an irritant. But
I feel like Christmas time.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks poinsettia. Oh my God, it's awful. But how much do they need to eat? It's
a lot, and so that's poinsettias kind of get more of a bad rap than they receive. I mean, and again, it's rare that I have a dog taking down an entire plant.
Yeah. A lot
we
of
talked
people
about
with
mistletoe.
Cats.
Yeah, and again, it's much more. There's many other houseplants that I would probably rank above a poinsettia, but it's just, I think, because everybody floods their living spaces with them. So but no, I'm trying to think of anything else. Mistletoe is bad. You don't want to eat a bunch of berries, but again, it's rare that you have someone who. But here's where it is an issue. If you have a small puppy or a small dog, it's very different for that dog to eat 3 berries versus the 100-pound Labrador. Yeah. That's where there is just a huge size scope to the dogs. Whereas again, a cat, they don't really love to eat things. They may eat 1 berry or so.
They may play with it or shred it some.
It's kind of the rolling aspect of it. I'm sure it's kind of fun, but
they're like, oh, thanks.
But usually there's something better out to eat, hopefully. Houseplants, know what you have.
I know Dieffenbachia.
Yeah.
That It's also known
obsolete.
as dumb cane because it numbs the mouth.
Yeah.
So now I wonder, because those oxalates and how they function,
I think they just
is it actually like destroying the tissue? Ooh, I'm gonna have to like nerd out on that.
I know. What was another good one that's kind of
Mother-in-law's tongue?
Yes.
I know that's another one that's a snake plant. Like those are, it's the same thing. I didn't know spath was bad.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Pretty much all of them.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Ferns, not so much. I think ferns are fairly safe. I can't think of I think
there's so many,
but they're
and people
easy.
do them so many different ways.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, again, knowing your animal. A lot of them, they're either inclined to eat things or not. So
what do you do about the dog that, not talking from experience here, what do you do about the dog that digs in the pots?
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
I stick forks in the pots to try to
that's what I've done, or like, even kind of like put up a little like foil barrier that they don't. The cats also in foil, or they don't love to get in. But kind of putting the plastic forks is definitely kind of one of, and then sometimes using jalapenos or like really spicy things to deter them if you can. But again, it depends on what you're trying to grow in your pot.
Yeah.
But I've used.
If you have a great big pot and it sits in the corner and it's big and it's heavy and you have this great plant, and then all of a sudden it's like, why is half the plant on the floor with all
nice,
the soil?
Cool dirt. So it's a good place to lay if you're
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Mine would also just kind of smell the fertilizer or whatever we put in.
Yeah.
And the potting soil, we had a little discussion about potting soil. It's always really smelly and got good stuff in it.
Yep.
So they do have a draw to get in there and like, oh, this smells good. Or like, is that fish meal at the bottom? What's down here? Of course. Like, so that's my issue. Yeah. But they're trying to get to smells.
If there was... I promised you I wouldn't keep you a long time. If there was one thing that you wanted people to know who have cats and dogs about plants, what's your one takeaway?
Truthfully, I just really wish people realize that it's kind of on them to like know what they have. So I can't tell you how often, like, everyone opens the door and lets the dogs out, and I do that too. Like I have a couple acres that are in an underground fence, and I let my dogs out, and I don't always know what's going on out there. And I had this issue myself as I like to learn lessons the hard way. I have a diabetic dog, and I was having trouble regulating her in the summer, and I couldn't figure out why her sugar levels were higher than I had anticipated given the food, etc. She was eating mulberries. So I go to her internal medicine appointment, and they're looking at her data, and they're like, wow, you're really kind of like spiking around here. And I'm like, yeah, I don't leash walk her, and she's out in the yard eating mulberries. And the internal medicine doctor's like, do you think you want to like leash walk her, or like what are we going to do about this? And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's my responsibility to like, I'm in control of the dog, and I'm responsible for her blood sugar and all those things. But like, I do let her out and let her just roam and exercise, etc. So we made some modifications. And I will be honest, I didn't leash walk her all the time either, but it's just really important to know, and like, I feel bad, especially when people visit and like rent these beautiful waterfront homes or something, the Airbnb, and like they don't know what plants are because they maybe live in New York City or somewhere, but like if you bring your dog with you, like, and they're out, gnawing on something, and then they're vomiting every 5 minutes for the next 2 hours, I don't know what it, like, like you just kind of have to be prepared to have some ownership and like figure out what's wrong with your animal. I know that you can speak to experience of like having to try to figure out what's wrong with your animal. It's not always easy for us, even when we have like all the information and you can helicopter and still we're not sure what's going on. So you just like make sure that we kind of know what's happening and we can help as much as possible. But plant wise, So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, my dog got into this, it would be probably helpful for you to have a picture of the plant. Yeah, exactly.
If they're like, I don't know, it was green.
To try to figure it out.
Like, great.
We're always in detectives, as far as like leaves at least have some character, whereas like rat bait is all green block, you know, or
Yeah,
some type
like,
of,
what's the brand?
like some type of, so like the devil's in the details. Nature at least gives us some really great details we can work off of to try to figure out. Or mushrooms, you know, like that's not something you're intentionally growing, but very deadly. Those white ambiguous
and all
mushrooms
the things that just
in the
pop
yard.
up in the yard or around the base of the tree.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just want to be aware. Like,
Yeah.
you know, again, I set my dog off into the abyss of the yard, but I do occasionally walk around every week, multiple times. Just like, oh, what's over here? What's going on over here?
What's coming
What
up?
are they getting into?
Or what has come under the fence? Like, what am
The
I?
osprey drop things.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're almost back, probably.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You don't know.
You don't know.
So the more information you have, the easier it can be in case of trying to diagnose. As you said, you guys are detectives.
Yes,
I like that.
it's detective work, but it takes teamwork, and that is definitely a part of the family that we rely on to know what's in their environment and where they've been and what they've been exposed
neurotic.
to.
I have to tell you, I'm so neurotic. Any little thing, like yesterday, again, it's Huck, Chip, and Cora, and they're all running around, and they're having a grand time, and it's great. And I look, and I'm like, what do you guys have? There was a duck toy, and the legs, there was a loop at the bottom, so you know they would play with the duck and it would squeaky squeaky squeaky, and then the legs would slide.
Okay.
Well, they got that out, and I was like, that's okay, they can, it was twisted rope, it's fine, it has the little, you know, feet at the end, the little duck like paddle feet. I was like, they're fine. So I look again, they have the rope untwisted. Both duck feet are now like all over the room. I was like, oh, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. You're all done. You are all done. The squeakers, like everything was still in place. Everything else was fine. But I was like, oh no, you're not doing this.
I always say that I think, you know, I don't think there's anything that's like 100% safe. You know, I think there's probably everything's been removed from a dog at some point.
Play with the air.
Yeah, squeakers, like as much, you would think that would fold. Even I would, but I've lost a dog to a squeaker, and all of those are sad, and they always stick with us, and they haunt us in a way that that we let our own dogs play with things all the time, and as we know our clients do, but we live a very wonderful life with them, and we're very lucky to share that love and that bond. But we do have things that happen, and so that's where we try to help and step in, but it's definitely a team effort, as you know, to like figure out how sick they are and what they need and how to rescue them. So I love being outside with my animals more than anything, but I'm like,
what are you eating? What is going on over there?
So again, if you have trees with nuts and things, like there's all kinds of free resources.
What about weeds? I didn't even think of that. We're talking about
weeds.
Like flowers and things that are supposed to be there, but what about, are there
lots of bad weeds
that
and
immediately pop to mind?
And again, this is really where, like, if you're a large animal vet and you're dealing with animals that are grazing, you can get in big trouble. There's so many toxins with like the beautiful Queen Anne's lace, and then
Queen
milk.
Anne's lace
or what did we?
Is tricky,
right?
Because Queen Anne's lace looks like other things as well.
What's the other one that looks like that? I always forget.
I know. It's hogweed.
Yes,
hogweed
yes.
And Queen Anne's lace look very similar.
Right.
And one burns you and one doesn't.
I know, and it's hard to
unless you're
know.
up on it and like, okay, I'm a flower nerd, so I know what the umbels, all the little individual guys should look like. And what they smell like. They do smell different. It's so like
how cool. I'll have to go look and see. I mean, because the stuff that we mostly have around is not too bad, right?
No, it's mostly Queen Anne's lace. I've seen the other stuff just a couple times.
I think it's water, right?
Yes.
It likes water.
It likes a lot more water, and it likes it's kind of more side of the road, which is tricky with Queen Anne's lace, but I feel like Queen Anne's is more field.
So the one that is so sticky that we kind of like always are talking about, that has the big old Milkweed is obvious. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one is. But the castor
Cockleburs.
beans, cockleburs,
Yeah.
right, and the castor beans, those are bad too,
Yeah.
right? And then
There's nightshade in the field.
nightshades. Yeah.
And I've had to train Chip, like, that is not a yellow tomato.
Yeah.
Don't eat that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's like running around.
Those are so spiky. It's shocking that they ever do that. I don't know how
No,
they do
this
that.
is Chip.
True. He's so special, but he's sweet and he's so cute.
There's not a thought behind the eyes some days.
He's on autopilot. He's got a plan. We just don't know what it is.
No, I don't.
And it's Chip's plan.
Oh my God. He is a mess.
No.
He is a mess.
And
So,
could you imagine your life without him, though?
he is probably one of the most loving dogs
Yeah.
I've ever had. He
Yeah.
just wants to please and he just wants to love you.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he wants. I will say, so the other day, Will was over, Huck was over, and Will's friend Will, it's like Will squared when they're there, he has a Frenchie named Max.
So cute.
And Max is this, like, he's a black Frenchie who is just, he's great. Max comes up the bricks, and, my guy saw Huck, and I just opened the door, and it's fine. Cora, she's all like, oh my God, another dog, we're gonna play, this is great, hello, how are you? Chip, you could literally, Maddie, you could watch him, like, go, like,
He's like,
he, like, puffed up. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Max wouldn't come anywhere near him. He was like, oh no. He turned around and ran away.
He's like,
Chip
yeah.
was like, right.
this is my part. This is my place.
This
You're
is
not
my
gonna-
space.
Yeah.
That is my Huck. This is my Cora. We
Yeah.
are not doing this.
Yeah, we don't need you. We don't need you here.
Oh, it was priceless. It
That's
was like
funny.
3 boy dogs, 3 different breeds, and Huck was like, just watching everybody, like, what are we doing?
That's so funny.
It's good.
You, that would have been a good film
It
for
was-
sure.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
should have filmed it
Yeah.
because you could literally, I watched him like move his paws.
He's like, you kind of look like me, but you're not like me.
So I'm gonna
and
be
this
bigger.
this is not your territory. This is my house.
My house.
My house.
Back up.
Yeah.
Back up. But well, I am not going to steal any more of your time. Thank you for letting me
thank you for coming to
kinda
visit me.
sit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Let me see your cool office.
Well, we'll
and
have to
all
look at
the-
plants this summer as they're starting to come up, and I'll go out and explore my natural areas and see if I find
be fun.
anything good. Yeah,
That'd be fun.
And then we
I would
can,
love it.
if anybody has any questions, we'll post some resources where they can look at toxic plants for inside the home and in the garden.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And guys, in the show notes, I will put the link for the vet information for
Perfect.
the toxicology. We'll put that in there.
Yeah.
And if people want to like and follow and do all of the things for your socials and your vet office, how do they find you?
They can go to chestertownvet.com, and then we obviously have an Instagram as well and Facebook page that are pretty active, and I post different things on those. But
Oh, in your email list. How do they get on your
Yeah.
email list? Because I live and breathe through that. Of like,
Awesome.
oh, I totally forgot about that.
yeah, let me post down below, and we'll definitely get some people in contact, and we can give you some good
Or is
resources.
that just for clients?
I think it's usually for clients,
Okay.
but again, that's not something that we're too shy about sharing. We just need to add them, and they can definitely receive that. So they could call any of our front desk client service representatives, could get them added probably fairly easily. And so, I'd be happy to share information. Yeah.
One last question.
Yes.
What's your favorite flower?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Sorry.
You know what? I'm really excited about spring. I do secretly like tropical locations too, and I love like mountain flowers. But I would say the one I'm kind of most excited about this year is I love when the violets bloom everywhere. And I know they're like a weed, but I grew up in West Texas, and my grandmother and my aunt had this tiny little patch of violets that they kept going from West Virginia, plants that they had transported in the 40s.
That's impressive.
So again,
that is
they would talk about how beautiful everything was out on the East Coast, and I grew up hearing about back east, and I just remember this patch of violets. So I really, when I came out here and they were everywhere, I really loved that. So
It's a little
I love
patch of
them.
happy.
Yeah, I'm really
That's cool.
excited. I know that they're next to kind of come up in the grass, so I'm
those
very
and
excited.
dandelions.
Yeah, and I know that everyone loves those, but you can't eat those.
You can eat
You
those.
can't eat
They're
those.
good for bees. I don't know why everybody
it's
hates
okay.
them.
I know. We gotta kind of you don't
Stop
have
it.
to have a completely green yard. It's okay.
No, that's a whole
judgment.
different topic.
Yeah, different day.
Thank
It's a
you
great
guys.
spring.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye.